Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour, chers collègues. Bienvenue à l'Assemblée générale de l'Assemblée canadienne de danse. Welcome to the Canadian Dance Assembly Annual General Meeting. My name is Jason Dubois. I've had the pleasure of serving as president for the past year. Before I call the meeting to order, I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting here on the unceded territory of the Algonquin people. And we thank them for their stewardship of this land. And with that, I will call the meeting to order. The first, there are a couple of housekeeping notes. The meeting is being live web streamed, and there is simultaneous translation. If you require translation, our colleague at the back of the room will be happy to provide you with a headset. And also just a reminder that if you have questions, they need to be addressed through the microphone. A simple motion or a second, we'll be able to get that on the record without that, but anything more than that needs to be through the mic in order to ensure that our fellow members who are on the web streaming and translation can receive it. I would like to introduce my colleagues who are here with me: Kate Cornell, the Executive Director of the Canadian Dance Assembly, and Sue Edworthy, who served as Treasurer for the past year. And our bylaws do require us to note the number of voting members. We require 8 voting members in order to have quorum. Aviva has advised me that we have 17 voting members, so we do in fact have quorum to move forward with the meeting. You should have all received a package. If you did not, there are some up here. The agenda is on the back of page 1, and the first item on the agenda is in fact the adoption of the agenda. So I would look for a motion to approve the agenda. Amanda, and seconded Cliff. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. The minutes from the 2015 AGM actually start on page 10, I believe, of the kit. I think they start on page 10, if I can find them. Yes, they start on page 10. I can give people a few minutes to review them. However, if someone who was at that meeting is inspired to make a motion to approve them, I would entertain a motion at this time. Anne, and a seconder. Who's that? Kevin? Perfect. Any discussion on the minutes? Questions? Hearing none, I will call for those in favor. Those opposed, motion is carried. The minutes are approved. Next is my report, apparently, which is also in the package somewhere, starting on page 14. I won't read it into the record because you have it, but I will specifically say on behalf of myself and the board of directors, we take this moment always to thank our staff, our small but mighty staff who achieve tremendous results every year with very few resources, and we are so grateful to your work, Kate and Aviva. Leanne is here, Laura as well. So thank you. And then also, yes. And also, thank you to my colleagues on the National Council. We have a group of volunteers from every corner of the sector and every corner of the country, and they are a dedicated group of representatives of the membership, and it's been a true pleasure to serve with all of you. So thank you for that. I guess we need someone to approve this report or accept this report, maybe. So I would look for a motion to accept the report, Jim, and a seconder, Gilles. Any questions out of my report, or? Hearing none. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Over to Kate, who will have much more to offer because she's the one in the middle of it every day.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will not read my executive director's report word for word, but draw your attention to what was a monumental year for the Canadian Dance Assembly. We saw the result of positive advocacy that made a change in policy at the federal level, which is quite remarkable. So last May 2015, the Standing Committee of Canadian Heritage, which is formed of 10 MPs in the previous parliament, decided that they were going to study dance for 3 days. And that was an incredible opportunity for the CDA to work with the Regroupement Québécois de la Danse and to recommend 25 very dedicated members of the community who came to speak in front of those MPs, and I worked with many of those speakers to make sure that they always mentioned we need help with the temporary foreign workers program. So we presented those speeches. I had fun crafting my speech comparing dance to the National Hockey League, and the result of that presentation, as well as the work with many of my colleagues in theater and music and opera, was a performing arts exemption to the temporary foreign workers program, which was announced officially in December and put into effect in February 2016. And you can read there that the change in that policy has meant that dance companies no longer wait months and months and months for a temporary foreign worker. They now can apply through the International Mobility Program with a $230 fee. I should note that this is not all dance companies, but only operating clients of the Canada Council. So there's other advocacy that is still going on for those missed by this program. In addition to the advocacy work around the Standing Committee for Canadian Heritage, I am the co-chair of the Canadian Arts Coalition with my colleagues across the country, and I'm the English language spokesperson, and it's an honor to have that position. And as a result, I was heavily involved in the federal election last September and October, and in early November, I was interviewed by Eli Glasner on CBC's The National. So CDA got a lot of nice press coverage as a result of that advocacy work done by the Canadian Arts Coalition. And immediately as the new government was in place, we started advocating for the doubling of the budget of the Canada Council, which I'm very pleased to say came about on March 22nd when the federal budget was announced, with a total of $1.87 billion in arts funding over the next 5 years. But I'll go into a little bit more detail in the advocacy report. Beyond advocacy, we'll hear from the Treasurer that we ended our year with another surplus. That's 2 years in a row with a surplus. We moved our offices from the Distillery District in Toronto to rental space with the Dance Umbrella of Ontario, and that has been an incredibly rewarding move, building new partnerships with the other renters in that space as well as with Duo. So we're very happy to be in that new space. Last year was also the year of our largest conference to date. The national conference took place in Toronto during the Fall for Dance North inaugural festival. And it was a wonderful gathering that many of you attended. In addition to our national conference, we have made it a priority in the past few years to go and travel regionally to as many festivals as we possibly can. And last year, the list included the Canada Dance Festival here in Ottawa, the Flux Dance Festival, the National Symposium on South Asian Dance in Mississauga, and the Fluid Dance Festival in Calgary. And I want to conclude my Executive Director's report by thanking the amazing staff at CDA, Aviva, Leanne, Laura, and Laura, who's outside. Thank you.
I guess we'll request a motion to accept the report, and then we can have any discussions and questions that have come out of that report. So a motion to accept Kate's report. I see Cliff and Jim. So discussion, questions for Kate. Then I will call the question. Oh, good, perfect. Can you just grab the mic there from Aviva? Thanks.
I just want to thank Kate and the CDA for the all the work they did on the standing committee. That was absolutely fantastic, and the recommendations were great.
Anything else? So those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. On to the exciting business. Over to Sue for the treasurer's report.
The treasurer's report can be very exciting, I'll have you know. I will start by saying again that this year was ended with a 28,997, 2,000, I got too excited. $2,897 surplus, bring down the overall deficit. Kate already said it is so nice, it has to be said twice. It is our second year of bringing down that deficit, reporting a surplus, and I'm very, very pleased with both the staff and my colleagues on the finance committee. A lot of work got done there. If we move forward, I'm not going to read you all of these. It's a long page. The other note that Kate mentioned was that CDA did move offices to be housed with Dance Umbrella. Financially, that's working beautifully, and I understand it's working beautifully from a personnel perspective as well. Brilliant. Membership revenues are highest to date this year, which excites me a lot, and they're up by 9%. We've also started receiving new revenue streams such as job listings, conference program ad fees, and support for advocacy travel. I think what the mantra is currently for CDA is to find new revenues. Everything has been cut as far as it can be cut, and the challenge is in building new revenues to help continue to report surpluses. As always, cash flow will continue to be a challenge at year end, but we continue to report a surplus. This improves year to year. Finance Committee continues to meet regularly in helping realize the financial recovery plan, which aims to see CDA out of its deficit by the year 2021. I don't think I have anything else to say. Was that exciting enough? I would like to finish with thank yous. I'll read this carefully. I would like to thank my colleagues on the Finance Committee for their work and diligence in continuing to ensure a surplus. Jason Dubois, Jane Marsland, Aviva Fleissing, and Kate Cornell. Also, thank you to our bookkeeper at the Dance Umbrella of Ontario, Natalie Voliev, and Sam Minucci, and auditors Hogg, Shane, and Sheck. Note that it was Minucci and Company, but they just recently merged with Hogg, Shane, and Sheck, just so you know. On that note, are there any questions? Told you so. I would like to move the approval of the 2015-2016 audited financial statements. Charmaine?
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 Yeah.
And a seconder?
I think we had Amanda and Charmaine.
Amanda and Charmaine,
Yeah.
Brilliant. Show of hands to approve the statements. I would also like to move the acceptance of the treasurer's report, exciting as it was. Soraya and Jim? And motion to approve that membership gives the National Council authority to appoint prospective auditors, including past auditors Hogg, Shane, and Sheck for the upcoming year. Can I get a motion? Everyone's good on that one. Kevin?
Wait, Kevin and Ann.
Thank you.
And we should vote on that motion for the auditors. So those in favor, opposed, motion is carried. Then moving on to the heart of much of the work that we do, we have a very active advocacy committee. I think Kate is going to report on behalf of that committee.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
The Advocacy Committee is chaired by Amy Bowring of Dance Collection Danse and Alain Dansriger of Le Grand Ballet Canadien de Montréal. The Advocacy Committee is always looking for new members if anyone would like to join that committee. So as I've already mentioned, the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage was a monumental opportunity for the CDA this year. I wanted to include in the advocacy report the 7 recommendations of the committee. Certainly recommendation number 3 about temporary foreign workers has been achieved to a certain extent. And the new Canada 150 new chapter money at the Canada Council addresses recommendation number 4 to a certain extent. This advocacy year, we will be addressing some of the other recommendations from the Standing Committee with a particular attention to dance and health, just so you're aware of the upcoming year. I want to recognize that meeting with members of parliament is an essential part of advocacy, not only for me, but for all of our members. So I like to include in the advocacy report who I worked with this year. So I met with Stéphane Dion and talked with him on the phone during the election. That was a very cool phone call. I have met Melanie Joly on 2 occasions now, Randy Boissonneau, the parliamentary secretary for Canadian Heritage. Adam Vaughan has been a huge champion for the arts in Toronto, and Julie de Brusen, who is now on the current Standing Committee of Canadian Heritage. And I'm working away on my new list for this year of MPs to meet with. And specifically, I mentioned the $1.87 billion in arts funding over the next 5 years is secured in the last federal budget. But in case you didn't see that press release, it's $35 million for Canada Arts Abroad, which is the new version of Trade Routes and Prom Arts, but they don't call it that anymore. So that's for international touring over the next 2 years. And then $168 million, which was kind of a surprise to many of us in arts advocacy, for cultural spaces and infrastructure, which again is over the next 2 years. So I encourage all members, if you have a cultural spaces shovel-ready program, please let me know, because I would like to write a letter of support, because we need more dance centers, we need more studio space, we need to take advantage of that infrastructure building across the country in the next 2 years, and I want to make sure that dance is on that list to receive some of that $168 million. And of course, the doubling of the Canada Council will happen by 2021. And that's the end of my advocacy report.
So again, I'll look for a motion to accept the report. Jill and a seconder, Charmaine. So discussion, questions on the advocacy activity reported for the year past.
Right. Thank you.
People can determine that.
I need for the translator, sorry.
Just curious to ask, after having such a great year, congratulations, what do you see as sort of the next chapter forward?
Absolutely. The Canadian Arts Coalition is planning their next Arts Day on the Hill for October the 25th this year, and CDA is organizing that day. The messaging committee is working on how can we strategically not appear like we're whining and asking for more money, but what we really do need is more investment. So we're trying to figure out a strategic way to ask for money, particularly in the Canada Arts Abroad. $35 million is wonderful, and the first thing we're going to say is thank you, but that investment really needs to continue over a longer period of time. So we will be looking to that touring money, because I'm hearing that a lot from our members, that we need to look at touring. There's also been a request from the training institutes. They were omitted from the last budget. Not much was omitted, but the training institutes and the presenters were 2 groups that weren't included in the last budget. So that will also be another focus. And then from the standing committee's report, dance and health is something that is a very long-term goal, but I have a meeting this week with someone from the Public Health Agency, because the National Ballet School has accessed money there, and I'd like to see that opened up to the broader dance community. So talking about touring, talking about dance and health, and talking about presenters and training. Yes. Sure, I'll repeat that question. Yeah, so the question was how can we get the presenters involved, because they have their own organization, the Candidates Network of Presenters. We work, you're sitting right beside a representative from CanDance, yes. We work very closely with CanDance and partner with them as much as possible. And the National Council this morning had a discussion about how those organizations that really represent an entire standing council, there's the Candidates Network, there are the CADAs, there's the Canadian Society for Dance Studies, how we might reconceive of the standing councils to better connect to them. So I'm hoping I will be going to Newfoundland for the Festival of New Dance in St. John's, and I'm hoping to meet with the presenters there. to connect with them more. And certainly our 105 taxation issue is another place of advocacy that we'll be working on.
Anything else related to the advocacy report? If not, there's a motion on the floor to accept it. Those in favor? Motion is carried. So we're moving on to the nominating report, and then we will thankfully have a bit of time for some other discussion once we get through this last piece of business. The nominating report is on the back page of the package of paper. So the CDA has a structure to elect the National Council, which really is the board of directors for the organization. Each standing council elects a chair. So the first group of names you see on the page have already been elected by the members of those standing councils, and we will just essentially be approving those elections at this point. They are 3-year terms, so I think there was only one renewed this year, is that right?
Yeah.
And the rest, so Carla Lachance has been re-elected as chair of the Dance Presenter Standing Council, and all the others on there are finishing their terms. So Candace Pike, chair of Service and Support Standing Council, Kevin Ormsby, chair of the Dance Company Standing Council, Sue Edworthy is freelancers and consultants, Louis Berge-Cote, independent dance artists, Brenislav Henselman is chair of the Ballet Company Standing Council, and Ann Kipling-Brown, chair of research and writing. So they have been elected by their standing councils already. Our bylaws allow for up to 7 members at large, and the board of directors has put forward this slate. They are Jeff Hurd, myself, Peggy Redden, Soraya Perbe, Barry Hewson, Margaret Grenier, and Cliff Lejeune. There is an opportunity at this meeting, if there are members who would wish to serve as a member at large on the National Council, to put themselves forward, nominate themselves or nominate others who are present here. So at this moment, I would call for nominations from the floor for the directors at large positions. I think I'm required to do this a couple more times. So are there any nominations from the floor? Finally, are there any nominations from the floor? So seeing none, I will declare the slate by acclamation, elected by acclamation. So that's the business that we are required to do at this meeting. Oh, wait, what's the left to do?
Accept the nominating report. Did we just do that?
We did that because there
Okay,
were no.
sorry.
Well, let's sure. Let's if we feel we need a motion, then let's have a motion to accept the nominating report. Jim and Amanda.
Okay,
Those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Great. Anything else? No. Okay, good.
Yes.
We did.
Yeah. sounds good.
Yeah. So this is a moment for other business and any other discussion that we want to have. We've got about 18 minutes, at least.
Just a question about the nominating procedure. I just wonder, and I might have just missed it passing, but do you ever do a kind of general call for nominations rather than just in that moment where we have a small group of people that might be able to nominate, but a kind of general out to the membership leading up to the annual general meeting?
Yeah, so it's done in a couple ways. Again, each standing council, you know, there are conversations sort of always on the go to find a member from that standing council to take on that chair position, and we frequently look to who's ever outgoing from the position to try and help identify someone who might be someone within that. And then again, it really is kind of ongoing conversations. There have been times when we have kind of put out just in the newsletter a general call to the membership to indicate that we're looking for representatives on the National Council. I think that was not done recently, just given the fact that we had essentially a full slate and we had directors who were interested in continuing to serve in their positions and some who were relatively new in their positions. But it is done from time to time that way, but that would be the only sort of broad channel, would be to our members in a newsletter kind of format.
I encourage that.
Okay, noted. So I will put forward one item, and then again we'll open the floor. I just, on behalf of the member that I represent here, the Canada Dance Festival Society, would like to welcome you all to the Canada Dance Festival. Thank the CDA for holding its AGM and this afternoon's panel, which is a great addition to the Canada Dance Festival programming. The festival is looking to, connect with all corners of the dance community in the country and be a place to gather every 2 years here in Ottawa. So thank you for coming. Please stay and see lots of shows and find time to connect with our colleagues from across the country. I will open the floor to other items that members would like to discuss while we're gathered.
Well,
go ahead, Stephanie.
I would just like to say.
Can you just pass her the mic?
It just was really wonderful that the sun came out. And my little group from Winnipeg got to do their landscape dancing outside, and that's why I wasn't here. But things are working nicely. You've got it set up well for the whole festival. And
thank you. We can also adjourn and have informal conversations somewhere other than this room, where I know many of you are now into your 5th hour, maybe. So, if someone in the room wants to put forward a motion to adjourn, I would be happy to accept that. Jim Smith. So, the motion to adjourn has been put forward. Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your time here tonight. We are partying at the Albion Rooms, so just across the street from here, following the May Day Dance premiere at La Nouvelle Scène, which is sold out. There are tickets for the 5:30 Young Professionals performance, but do find us at the Albion Rooms later on. If you're doing the marathon of all 3 shows today, Young Professionals, ODD, and the May Day Dance show, I think we have a little bit of charcuterie and some sponsored beer between the Young Professionals show and the ODD show. So if you're around between those 2, find us probably hovering in the hallway outside ODD, and we'll get you refreshments on the marathon. Thank you.